Okay, lights, camera, action. Here I am, Wicked Witch Entertainment, sitting down with some people that know a lot about Blinky lights. Here I am with David Lowe, Executive Director of the BIA of Victoria Park, the Business Improvement Area District. Is it a district?
Just a business. It's an area.
It's an area. It's an area,
yeah.
Right? You place things on a
small
map.
area of 40 blocks.
Yes, of downtown.
Square blocks, yeah.
Yes. Well, actually, that's what I love about Calgary is things are actually in a lot of square blocks.
It's a grid.
A grid. It is. Also the executive director of Night Light, and then our chief Imagineer of Calgary, Paul Magnuson of Big Art.
Oof, chief Imagineer of Calgary. I don't know if I can take that title.
That's an upgrade.
But I definitely have made up one title for us at Big Art, actually more. So, if anyone from the city wants me to make up titles for them, I'm happy to.
Well, that's how you start creative things, right? You start your own federations, you start assigning different titles, and that's how you really recruit, right? Like anybody could be a chief Imagineer.
Anybody.
Yeah, you just have to dream it.
That's right. Or put it in an email in a signature. That's enough in this day and age. I promise you. People believe it. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yes. Well, welcome to the show. So I'm so happy to pull together the awesome guys in the city, that the good guys that like to bring the Blinky lights and light up Calgary. We're really here talking about Night Light. Night Light is this huge kind of project campaign ambition that David has brought to downtown Calgary to showcase artists, lights. It's the challenge, I guess, with the podcast is explaining what Night Light is without that visual. So can we kind of do a bit of a visual walk about what Night Light is?
Kind of a visual thing, yeah. And I'll try and be more descriptive. Yes. I'll use my descriptive.
Yes.
So Night Light really was designed to be this purpose-built playground for light, art, and artists. And one of the starting points was a number of years ago, I got really frustrated with the absence of projection mapping in Calgary. Projection mapping is an art form that I guarantee you've seen. If you go to a hockey game or you've watched the Olympics or you've been to Europe, you will have seen projection mapping. And it's basically where you make a surface change shape and become three-dimensional through the use of special projectors and lighting techniques. And
I guess even just to go to like the simplest form, it's when during Christmas when people get a light that they shine on their house, that would maybe be it's kind of like a very rudimentary example of just projecting light onto a surface.
Projecting light on a surface, and that just makes it look different.
Yeah.
But it was an art form that is used again quite heavily in other parts of the world, and just isn't being done here. And so set forth on a mission to try and figure that out. And from there, through my good friend sitting next to me, got invited to Blink Cincinnati, which is America's largest light art festival.
You told me about this, and who would think that Cincinnati?
Yeah, I know. I remember standing there with the crew and trying to figure this out, going, what is going on here? Because you got Kentucky right across the river, and it's like the most unlikely place where you would find probably in my travels, it's probably been the most overall spectacular display of light art and creativity out of anywhere I've been in the world. And it was a truly remarkable experience. And from there realized, okay, it's not going to be just enough to have projection mapping. It's gonna have to be a light art festival. And so that was really the genesis for starting Night Light. Bit of a backstory was that I've always been part of or producing elements of other festivals, Beakerhead, Glow, Chinook Blast. And those were great for the BIA because we got to produce a little chunk of something, and in some cases a big chunk of something, but it really wasn't our own. And through encouragement of Paul and Hanan, my two producing partners on this thing. They're like, yeah, it's time to do your own thing. So go and do it. And so we did.
Yeah. Well, and your own thing. So you run the business improvement area district of kind of downtown Calgary. I would say like south of the tracks. Right. South of the tracks. So the goal of these festivals is really to make downtown fun and interactive to walk around, right? And like a playground that kind of invites people throughout the night to, play around in their own city.
For sure, and to demonstrate what is possible, and certainly in the context of what's been happening in the area for the last 5 years, to just show people that it's okay to be out here at night, and you can have a high quality experience with your family and be inspired.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes the streets feel safer, fun, friendly. So let's talk about some of those interactive exhibits that we saw during Nightlight. What were the dates of Nightlight this past year?
It was September 27, 28, 29, I believe. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. 3 days.
It was a long 3 days. Yeah.
It was. I think also the goal of Nightlight is to expand it even beyond a festival and have those showcases going on maybe consistently. Who knows?
Part of the founding principles of Nightlight is that we wanted it to be modular and to be able to plug into other festivals and to have other festivals plug into Nightlight. So, for example, this year we stood up a thing for the Inglewood BIA as part of their, it was a Snow Eater event. And so Nightlight helped produce their projection mapping install there.
Well, okay. And so let's talk about modular and bringing in some big things. Paul. Okay, so Paul is the one behind the tunnel. If you have ever walked through a massive Blinky-like tunnel that's kind of in a triangle, that is Paul. And then Paul exhibited the dome for it was the second time.
Yes, in Calgary.
Yeah, the second time. So this is where we need to get kind of creative with our descriptions. Okay, so the tunnel's kind of like this, the tunnel, right? And how long is it?
32 meters.
32 meters of different lights, and you walk through, and it's kind of like the best like fashion runway. So Paul has brought that tunnel to so many different festivals across the world, which is really cool to say. So what are some of the biggest festivals that you have brought that tunnel to have people enter into it?
Yeah. So this is where we plug bigart.ca to see all kinds of photos and videos and things. And yeah, very proud of the team that helped the tunnel come to life. These are always dreams in our sketchbooks that we call our dumb ideas that we help bring to fruition. But the furthest the tunnel has traveled so far is to Sydney, Australia for WIKKID. And WIKKID is one of the world's biggest light art festivals, if not the biggest. And very humbled to be invited and show. And I think jumping on David's wow factor at Blink, when you see other cities create these magic moments of light art all around the city and the whole city is invested, it's pretty striking. So
Blink is at Cincinnati?
This is both for Blink and WIKKID. These are festivals where the whole city is behind it. So when we think about Calgary and the use of this festival to bring people together and Nightlight or other light festivals, Chinook Blast, Glow, etc., like it really is a free opportunity. It is an opportunity to come down, connect, be with people, see these creative, interactive installations, and it costs you nothing. So again, that is so important for the fabric of our culture, is to produce these free events so that anyone from any walk of life, any socioeconomic stigma can come and enjoy and be a part of it. And I think that's the difference. It separates a ticketed event from a free event is just accessibility.
Yeah, I just want to jump in there and say that we had people seek us out, and I didn't think this was happen at Nightlight, and thank us for not trying to sell them crap. Seriously. And I struggled with that a little bit, and it was intentional. Like, we didn't want to have a ton of vendors, and and if you wanted stuff, you could go get it. Like, absolutely. Yeah. But it wasn't in your face. And the same thing with Blink, and I guess WIKKID too, to a degree.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But that not having participation was not tied to your economic capacity. And so that was a very, very powerful gesture. You could go into the dome, have the same amazing experience as a millionaire, and it was the same, but it was the same. It was the same high quality experience, regardless of your economic capacity to participate. And that was such a powerful gesture for people, and to bring your kids and not have your kids going, oh, buy me that cotton candy or do this or do that, right? And people sought us out and said, thank you for doing that.
And so this is important for our installations. And when we show, wherever we show, the free events always result in the most positive experiences, the best experiences, and we love it. So we've been fortunate enough to show the dome, the tunnel, our other artworks like the portal, the Star Aquarium in really, really great communities over the last 5 years. And even as we speak today, we're taking down the Star Aquarium in Chinook Blast. Tomorrow, doors come home from Napa, California. And then on Saturday, we have Doors and the Cube coming home from Ottawa. And then we still have a tunnel right now in Fort St. John. And plugging more along the way, which I love, just because the team is working so hard. We still have installations going out at the end of the month. And then another major version of the dome called the Brain headed out in April to Whitehorse to help educate young Yukon youth there regarding toxic stress and the toxic drug crisis. So this ability to take public art that we just love because it's blinky and weird and interesting, and then now apply that to a much more not worthwhile endeavor, but definitely a more public driven and public health safety mandate is awesome. So we are very, very lucky to do this. And what I hope is we have this same conversation in 5 years, or someone else is having the same conversation and they say nightlight in Calgary. Where the hell is Calgary? Why would something be like that be in Calgary? And that's exactly what happened in Cincinnati when the chamber started this process. And I've talked with them at length. That really was it. It was, why can't we have something that a larger metro city has?
Yeah. Why can't we? It increases tourism. It really puts Calgary on the map. I think, Paul, through all of these exhibits that you're showcasing internationally, it is kind of putting Calgary on the map. You're showcasing that, you're creating playgrounds across the world. And so let's kind of talk about some of these exhibits, okay? Because again, this is a podcast, so we need to break it down. Okay, so let's talk about the dome. The dome was the second time that you exhibited it at Night Light. I know David was telling me about the challenges of kind of placing that dome and dropping it in. So how this dome is how large?
Sure. So yeah, the dome that we have is a 44-foot geodesic dome with a projection liner and a blackout cover. So it presents its own challenges, requires machines and several people to set up that know what they're doing.
In the rain, in the snow.
It's amazing. But I mean, any burner watching this podcast, anyone who's built geodesic structures knows the
burners are people that go to Burning Man, and that is ultimately the place that kind of the wildest people go to kind of create and get inspired by blinky lights, kind of test and trial things out, and then bring them back to a city and properly construct an exhibit. So the dome this year at Night Light, it was almost like going into such a haven. You would go in and there's like lights flashing all over. There are so many people just laying on the ground looking up at all of the visual mapping of the dome as there's music playing. We had a go-go dancers and kids dancing, adults. It was raining. Was it snow? Was it snowing and raining?
It rained last night.
Yeah, but it was still
it was cool.
You went in and it felt like just such a beautiful, safe place that I think I saw kind of people just gazing and napping on the ground, just looking at the lights. So that's the dome. And then Paul is also known for his doors. So if you've ever seen the doors in Calgary, they're standing doors, and you open them, and every single time it is a different visual experience. So those doors have been showcased, and that's what's really cool about big art is it's portable, right? You can kind of pick it up and move it around, of course, with the crew. And then what are some of the other pieces you mentioned? What did you exhibit at Chinook Blast?
So this year we had the Star Aquarium, but what was special about the Star Aquarium presented this year is we did it in conjunction with Calgary Party 50. Maria Galura from here in Calgary. She's a balloon artist, incredibly talented. Shout out. And so she made that piece more magical than we could have imagined. But the concept is it's a giant aquarium that captures flora and fauna from outer space or different galaxies or times and brings it into this tank to virtually show. So it's a play on the fact we don't need zoos. We're living in a very, very interesting time. You can all just wear your Vision Pros or whatever you want. And we can see these things that are created in this physical space and imaginative without having to go to a zoo and capture an animal. But the idea is that it's also interactive. So we leave our interactive stations out for almost every installation we make. We call them consoles or pilot stations. But with what's special about the one we left out for Chinook Blast is it's a game of Simon Says, but it's not obvious and there's no sign. So what's awesome about interactive art is often it's broken. For sure, stuff breaks, it doesn't work.
A balloon may pop.
Yeah, it doesn't happen. But in our case, the console we brought out is very robust. It works all the time, I promise you. And so people will be like, oh, it's broken. But that one person who spends 2 minutes figuring it out, or someone maybe I've told who shares this process, once they get it, can go through over 27 levels of Simon Says. And when they get through each level, they're rewarded with new animations and new sounds and whatever. So the reward is figuring out the Star Aquarium's language. And it is just copy me and I will bring you things.
Interesting. Okay, so maybe if they get to level 27 and they win, then maybe we should figure out a new title to give them.
But so we were doing the regional burn, which is Freezer Burn. Shout out to the rest of Leah. That here we took the console for the first time for the portal. And when we did 17 levels, that last level would shoot fire. So always giving a reward for the person who's willing to engage and interact and be there, be present longer is important to us, because that is the curiosity that we strive for. Yeah, we want people to stay longer and be involved.
and push that button and figure it out. I'll also shout out to TNA, True North Absurdities. That's Kyle and Ian. So if you've ever seen like a dragon or some crazy metalheads blowing fire, that's Kyle and Ian of True North Absurdities. And I saw them at Chinook Blast, and what did they say? They're like, yeah, we're just kind of giving kids a safe place to play with fire, right? And like, doesn't everybody just kind of want to push a button?
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, and they exhibited at Nightlight as well. They had Trippity there.
Yeah,
Trippity. They dusted Trippity off.
And again, another example of Calgary art crew that are doing amazing things and starting to travel a bit more. But we need more platforms like Nightlight, Chinook Blast, Glow, etc., to showcase these art forms, because it's tough. You need outdoor space, you need resources, and a place to shoot, 5 meters of fire. So that's the hardest part about producing these things, is making sure that they have the resources. And then back to Nightlight, for David's credit, I kind of feel like the one thing we're not missing, but we're getting better at, including Chinook Blast, Glow, but Nightlight specifically, is this pipeline or runway for emerging artists to present. And I say this term a lot, and Marianne Moser, thank you for all you've done for years. You're going to hate me for saying this, but I said this at Beakerhead while we were producing a lot. We need a safe place to fail.
Right.
Just a little, not a lot, because it's in the public space, but just enough so that we learn and we get better. And when we have that security and safety and support of the festival and its producers to allow artists to explore and fail a little, all it does is make for much better interactive and engaging experiences. So I don't know if you agree.
Fail. I think I like to use the word test and experiment.
It's way more
safely.
political. I like that.
Test and experiment safely. So
I'm just going to keep using fail.
Because artists don't get the opportunities to play at the big scale. So at Nightlight, we gave Asthma Digital, again, another local digital art collective, the opportunity to do the biggest projection mapping shot they have ever attempted. And it was a dream of mine to pull it off. And if for anyone, and again, we're on radio here, but anyone that knows TransAlta and those giant circular columns, I'd always driven past and gone, wouldn't it be cool to map one of those? And so we figured out how to do it. And for asthma, they were, well, we've never done anything that big before. And just working with them on figuring out that process to make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
And then afterwards, the best moments were, I still hear them talking about it. They're like, yeah, that was the biggest thing that we've done. And so that's creating, again, that playground space, that opportunity space for people to test and learn and grow at that scale and level.
Yeah. How else are you going to figure it out, right? Like, you just have to go. And you have to
yeah.
figure,
And
right?
that's it. I mean, you can't, there's a certain point, and I do high performance sports and some other things. And in taking a course, I was getting just slammed by an instructor. And I was like, why are you pushing me so hard here? And he's like, look, man, if you want to learn how to drive 200 miles an hour, you got to go 200 miles an hour.
I know, you just have to do it.
You just have to do it.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
But I mean, not only did you give Matthew and Laura from AZMA, asthma, Access Ed Media Arts, not only did you give them the opportunity, but to add to that, you gave opportunities for Mappers YYC, Studio Luma, and other projection mapping groups who have started. Please Google those groups and get involved. You gave them the opportunity to use projectors they may not normally use in spaces they don't normally use, but what I would consider resources. And I use that term a lot. And it's not just money. You can throw money at something, it'll still never be credible, but you need training, you need equipment, and you need expertise and all of the things, including community, that support the safe and creative exploration of these ideas. So really proud of what Nightlight did. Last year.
I mean, we had everything from a little projection mapping fellow, Jose. And Jose, I'm sorry if I can't pronounce your name right now, but he's just starting out. Drives around on a bicycle with a little tiny projector and a little tiny bike, and is just doing this guerrilla mapping stuff. And I got introduced to him, and I was like, hey, do you want to do a shot? And he was like, really? And I'm like, yeah, here, projector, go. And he created one of the most intimate, delightful things of Nightlight. Very, very, very talented and well done. And then Luma, I gave them a very, very challenging surface to work with from a projection mapping perspective. The colors were very difficult. And I said, here it is. And they rose to the challenge and again, really pushed them in terms of what they were able to accomplish technically. So we just want to advance that culture, give people, again, that play space and those opportunities.
But you went one step forward or past that, which I was lucky enough to see at Vivid, Blink, Canal Convergence in Arizona. There's a few examples of events that do this really well, and it's bring the artists together. And it isn't a meet and greet for the public. It's artist-driven, artist-centric connections where you can talk and chat and
like networking,
bolster.
workshops. Skill
I'm careful with the term network because I don't know if it's always about improving your network, but I appreciate it. That's the easiest way to explain it. But it's where you're giving the artist a safe space to talk and explore ideas rather than talk about the ideas we already have. And I think that's amazing. And it will just happen naturally. So you hosted 2 different events for artists. And in two of those events, I was generating new ideas with artists I've never met before, willingly, freely, without fear of losing that idea or coveting an idea. And that to me in a big art is the most, that's the way of the future, is not coveting these ideas. We live in the era of internet. They all exist. I guarantee you, you think of something right now and you think no one has thought of it, they have. The difference is that group will make it.
Well, and Paul, actually, that's a good point, because I saw you were featured recently at your warehouse, and you opened up the doors and studio.
No, I like it. We call it a studio. I like you call it a warehouse because it is more a warehouse. If you call it a studio, we have our circus show up and they get dirty trying to rehearse. So we don't. We call it a shop. It's somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, it's shop. I like the term shop.
Yes, we opened the Wizard of Oz curtain to show the doors.
Yes, and you did, and I watched that interview that you did, and you were like, yeah, it's a Raspberry Pi, and I was like, Paul,
Sure.
I'm like, you're giving away all your secrets about how you produce the door.
We're,
And
just,
I'm like,
we're not the
"Oh."
first to do it. Won't be the last. And I'm happy to share. I'm not going to go patent the doors. And it's funny because other people have sent me photos like, hey man, they ripped off your idea. And I'll always find some other video or photo on the web that's years before us doing something similar.
I know. I may have seen another showcase of something very similar to Paul's doors. And I was like, Paul, these are your doors. And he's like, just there's no original ideas.
It would be worse, and maybe this is a scenario that did happen, is if someone came to me and said, we like your doors, we'd really like to rent them. I might say, well, they're unavailable or we don't have any for you. And then they go make their own version. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but we have our mission at Big Art. It is to inspire the next. Mm-hmm. So we talk about this all the time. It happens in one of two ways. They either like our shit and they want to make their own, which is great. I want that to happen all day. Yeah. Or they think it sucks and they can do it better. Mm-hmm. And that is even better. So I'll take either of those. It doesn't matter. You heard me say in that same interview, we love the art we make. There wasn't enough when we started making it. I think there's more happening now. And we want to inspire others to make, because they will in turn inspire us again to make more. It's just this revolving door of inspiration. So I think that's magic. So we want more of that. But yeah, I hope that we can share ideas. So the concept of getting artists together to talk about ideas is magic, and it's the same in any academic institution, right? That's the whole idea. So I would encourage anyone producing events like this to do that. Is try and get these artists together for the sheer purpose of creating something new. It's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. Have you seen the Creative City Strategic Guidebook?
I have.
Yes. So anybody that's in Calgary, I encourage you to check this out. So this is a piece that's been 2 or 3 years in the making.
Over COVID, which is I still appreciate the work that they did. That would have been
It's an excellent piece of work. It's the Creative City Prosperity Through Creative Economy. It's a strategic guidebook, and hundreds and hundreds of people consulted on this over years. I'm sure both of you consulted on it. It just came out, and it's going to be fanned out. Like, some of the people behind it are like Calgary Arts Development, Calgary Economic Development, produced by Birds Creative Arts Commons, like a lot of academics. And I've been using this as kind of my guidebook for the year, because I mostly profile electronic dance music and artists, and I'm hoping to kind of bring back like convention, an electronic dance music convention, a con, and because I've just kind of been pulling people together. I've traveled too much, and to come back to this city, it's like we need to have people kind of starting to talk. So yeah, these workshops that were kind of the focus of this study, I'd like to kind of just run through them with you and get your thoughts. So number one, let's appreciate the impacts of a creative economy.
I would reframe that to say the impacts of an experience economy. And if you look at economies in North America that have rebounded the quickest and with the most ferocity since COVID, Las Vegas and Nashville, and those are experience economies, and they've got that very well figured out. We do that here on a large scale really well. We do really big, really well. Stampede, Petroleum Show. Mm-hmm. But we have yet to still tap into the genuine everything that an experience economy can bring. So there's the economic side of it, but there's also the engine that it creates in terms of increasing people's creative capacities.
And keeping that engine driving, like Patty Pond, I heard from her recently. She's behind Calgary Arts Development Association, and she said that like she phrased it so well that Calgary, we're an oil and gas economy, and she's like, we are boom bust, boom bust, boom bust. So yeah, I think it's about keeping that engine going. So appreciating the impacts of that economy.
But I think the hardest part of talking through the creative economy, and I'll sum it up with Rick Rubin, who I love and hate. Sometimes the things he says are ridiculous, and sometimes he has one or two nuggets, which is, I think, how he produces records. But he said, creating art for yourself is true art. Creating art for others is commerce. So again, just like the worst paraphrased dribble coming out of his mouth, but at the same time there's truth in there that if we are supporting artists to create the art they love, that will benefit others eventually. And I think this is where he's saying. So if we strategize how to create economic gain from creative endeavor or venture, we might get lost.
Mm-hmm.
I think it comes after. I think marketing something that's been made for a different purpose is different than creating. So I think what I'm trying to get at is anyone who's watching this podcast and is in a moment where they're marketing or promoting works of art that are not yet produced and are producing it for a specific purpose, just heed those words from Rick Rubin. It just becomes commerce, and I don't know if the love and passion will be there. So what I appreciate about our creative community, there are so many artists here in Calgary who have created just for the sheer fact of creating, and those have been our most successful marketed creators, like Jeff DeBoer. He makes mouse armor. That's awesome. What? Why? So Jeff, shout out. Why?
And I think that's
Awesome.
the challenge as well with grants. Like even myself, I'm looking to do a documentary this year celebrating 25 years of electronic dance music in Western Canada. But now I finally kind of came up with that idea, to kind of like put that grant forward. But with applying for grants, sometimes you have to kind of like self-fund what your project is before it kind of comes to fruition to where you can then put it on paper to then say, this is my idea. So yeah, accessing that funding. Yeah, when you're an artist, it's really hard to put it on paper.
I hear that. I hear a lot of people say that. The quote I have from Tyler is, "I'm tired of asking for permission to create."
Yeah.
And that was waiting for the money.
Yeah.
I will say this, we've never taken a grant at Big Art.
Yeah. Really.
And we don't need to, because I think the work we do speaks for itself. And shout out to all of the producers who take a chance on us and bring out our works. And we have people in our crew, in our community, that are smart enough to hold me back from spending all the money on making things that we will never show. But that I think there needs to be more education. Yeah, like there needs to be more education around how to make your work more sustainable. And that's so, not to contradict the things I was saying earlier. You still need to be able to market yourself. You still need to run a business, spend wisely. But yes, grants are tougher to access for the work we do. I'm sure for the work you do, it's also tough. And you're relying on a lot of institutions that are a little more traditional and fund traditional art forms, projects, things with legs. So for us, we've just been used to, I don't know, applying for any money we can that will get us off the ground, and never getting it, and then just figuring it out from there.
Right. Well, so let's ask David.
We're finding
actually,
event partners.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's right.
That's why networking, right? You just kind of got to follow the lights, and maybe follow the funding. So David, if somebody wants to become involved in Nightlight and apply to Showcase, how do they do that?
They would go to either victoriapark.org or nightlightvicpark.ca. And from there, you would navigate to the Contact Us button. And right now, our artist applications had a meeting this morning about what we're going to do differently this year in terms of ours. Get in touch and let's talk about it. We're actually hosting a creative burst session
on February the 27th.
And again, just get in touch through us. And my social media person is allergic to the telephone, but if you DM her, she'll be back to you in like 3 milliseconds. So any of our social medias, she will get back to you with all the details on that. And we want to just start talking with people.
Okay, so you don't have to have like a whole portfolio, like proposal submission.
No, man. Hey, I saw something cute on Alley. Can I do that? Like seriously,
Yeah.
like
Cool.
$400 in cheap lasers. that would do it. I mean,
well, in the submission process that you put forward last year was a Google form,
right?
And wasn't very complicated. It didn't even ask for an incredibly detailed budget, which is my worst. What we're looking for is just little bits of magic, just from your heart. Explain what you'd like to create and how.
I want to do. We'll use the technical term here. I want to do a thing.
Yeah.
Right.
A Blinky thing.
Well, or even a Blinky thing. Like, okay, I've got a case of old neon glow tape from this party that we didn't have. Can I make a painting or sculpture with it? I mean, anything like that.
Well, and I think talk about like the interactive experience. Like when I've showcased at Freezer Burn, we kind of use like, the principles of like, inclusion and having a message behind it, right? So like if there's some sort of interactive piece, like what is the experience or feeling that you come out with it, right? To put yourself on the wall. Map was like one of my favorites during Nightlight, where you can kind of, put your silhouette on. But like, what is that visceral kind of feeling you have walking away from it? And it doesn't need to be super specific. But.
It doesn't, and I don't like to overthink that, because it can be as simple. I mean, if you're 8 years old and you can walk up and push a button and turn on a light, that's magic.
That is.
Right? And if you can turn on a bunch of colored lights, and then if you can start playing with the prism and making colors as you're doing it, that's like, oh my God, I can do this. And then an adult, it brings out that inner 8-year-old. Right. And it's the same thing with True North's work. I mean, I get to push this lever and a giant fireburst comes out. Yeah.
I can be a safe pyromaniac.
Absolutely. So it's things like that. Because I think I absolutely love interactive, but I think it gets, I don't know, overthought.
Well, we also talk about the fact most of the artists who submitted and were successful aren't professional artists, and that's not their day job. So they would be professionals in another area that contributes to their work. And I think that's really important, because I use this term a lot, and I know other professional artists will hate to hear this, so will funders. We're not generally narrative-driven artists. We don't lead with narrative. We lead with experience. So partial to what you're saying is, I want to push a button and I want to see 30 feet of fire. You don't need a narrative to talk about that. That's just natural. And it's what we call, in funny terms in Calgary, blue collar art. It is. It's great. You do not have to sit there and watch it and contemplate, but you can. Please do so. Yeah. But you can go up and push a button and enjoy it. And it is definitely all ages that can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. So the other thing I should stress, Nightlight is about making friends and allies in the venture here. And when we're talking about doing these things, obviously having the resources is important, but equally as important is, again, building those relationships and allies that are going to carry it forward, and that aren't going to be afraid to do the hard work to do it.
Something we don't talk about enough is, and even a Bass Coast, a Chinook Blast, whatever you're applying to, if you're not successful in your application, the best thing you can do is go through the artists who have been successful, contact them, get on the cruise, be a part of it. Why are they successful? Right. Well, maybe they have something that you didn't think of. Maybe it wasn't the submission. And then the second thing is, I hear this a lot, and we did this in the Bass Coast Ask Me Anything on Instagram, was, how do you deal with the rejection?
Every single day.
All the time. Yeah, it's okay. I'm telling you, it's nothing personal. It's nothing personal. It is something in your application that just wasn't enough to sway the people who are programming the event. But
maybe it wasn't right. It's kind of like dating. It's
exactly. Didn't fit.
Yeah.
It's okay. Yeah. And just move on and do the next thing. But always try and get on with the crew that's doing a thing. Like for the Dome, I'll happily invite you down and
always
put you in a harness. We can make
put you to work.
Put the 580 bolts together. No problem.
Yeah. Always recruiting. Yeah, like one of the initiatives I did with Freezer Burn was the Freezer Burn Wrestling Federation. I can't believe we did that for 4 years, and like with lack of injury. But when you kind of build a federation or like a volunteer based group, it's so fun, because you meet the most diverse people, when there's not like money tied to it, but you kind of end up making an organizational structure of like leads, like, okay, marketing, crew, and like that kind of organization.
Well, and the hope is that someone came out of that and made another thing.
Yeah.
Or did something different, and they can carry on, because as you experienced, that crew will burn out.
Yes.
If it maintains its pace and doesn't, think of all the things it needs to stay healthy. Yeah. So that happens, and that creative burnout is secular, and it's okay. It's okay. But what happens is coming onto a crew in a smaller position or a different position will just change your frame of mind and help you create differently. So I would say for a Nightlight, that is how I encourage people that are submitting. If you're not successful, get on one of the crews or volunteer at the event.
Volunteer and
be there.
And I think that is so important. And I get asked, well, here, I'll ask you a question. Which would you prefer? Someone who is very artistically talented or someone that's just really hardworking?
How about both?
Ooh, yeah.
Well, both.
I can't have both.
But you can't have both.
Blue collar or white collar?
Work ethic is by far the number one thing we have at Big Art. And
being there for setup and for tear down.
100%.
Right?
So Brandon, Devo, all the other people that help us right now, not just our full-time artists. 100%. It is hard. And if you work hard and gain that experience, it will pay in dividends. I promise you.
Well, and so that's, people ask, okay, so how did you get good at this? And it's like, because I was driving around by myself with a truck full of lights doing things, learning how to do it.
Yeah.
The ambition is not, and aside from work ethic, the ambition, right? The drive to create, and that passion you can't teach. So that is also important.
You've got to fail, right?
Yeah. Or just show up. Hey man, I want to, I'm here to do the thing and learn how to do it.
Learn bit by bit. One of my favorite ones of these workshops is, cultivating and retaining creative talent. I think all of us have had the conversation about Calgary is a difficult city to produce in, and often you kind of want to like fly the coop and go to a different city.
Calgary's a difficult city to produce.
I don't think it's a difficult. I like where you're going. I like starting this because we should talk about this. I don't think it's a difficult city to produce in.
That maybe just the weather. Okay?
But no. I this is where I'll go down this rabbit hole because I like it. The city of Calgary, all the employees I've ever worked with in producing anything in the last 12 years have been awesome. But it is just changing the way in which events have been delivered to us for so long. We're so used to Stampede and some of these like historical events. We're not used to, as a public, getting these types of events. But I will tell you, with the recent amount of migration to Calgary, whether you're a new Canadian or new Calgarian from somewhere in Canada, that brings a wealth of experience, because some people will come from other communities who are used to this type of event or crave it and can't get it. And so the change in our culture with the recent migration, let's call it the last 10 years, is awesome. And now more and more, I was at Chinook Blast last Saturday and there were 1 million new Canadians. I heard maybe 7 languages on the ice.
Wow.
So crazy. Wow. So to me, that is, it's free, it's accessible, it's unique, it's interesting.
It's cheap, it's cheap here. Yeah. Well, and I have the lens of the music industry, and like during COVID, like, what a bust. Like so many of our venues closed down.
Yeah, I opened one.
Which one?
The drive-in.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the outdoor.
So I can share your empathy. The day the curtains closed, March 13th.
Yes. And actually this is the best example of Paul just figuring things out. So during COVID, when everything was closed down, he opened up the drive-in so people could go into a drive-in theater outdoors and safely go to an event. Like Paul, that was so brilliant.
He did a thing. But that's just the test of we got together, everyone who was ready to produce a thing, and we did it, and we had the support. So this, again, it was not difficult to produce in the way of there wasn't red tape. The city was amazing. Everyone's amazing. But I want to come back to this. I think that Calgary is a big city and isn't quite used to funding some of the events we're talking about. So I agree there. We're not sure yet how to enjoy them. And a free event is still kind of interesting. Like everyone thinks it comes with hooks. What do you mean free? I mean free. Like just come down. Well, what's ticketed? And I experienced this in we were in Idaho at Coeur d'Alene. Shout out to Winter Lights, like rad team, first year of the event, and everyone was like, "Where do I buy tickets?" And I was standing in a park showing this tunnel and asking them to like interact with the tunnel in a control surface, and they were like, "What's a ticket? Where do I get a ticket?" And I thought, "Oh man, we just have to do a better job at making these free public events accessible and repeatable, and people will get used to it, and that you don't have to come down and buy any trinkets or whatever. Just come down and enjoy."
That's I mean, I think that's part of the way the festival event culture in Calgary has evolved. We're used to, okay, Folk Fest, okay, I got to go, ticketed event. Lilac Festival, okay, great, but you better have some money in your pocket because it's vendors, and that's the thing there. It's a market.
Yeah.
And I same experience when I stood up the first big projection map in Central Memorial Park. Ooh. And a guy comes up and he's, you can tell he's looking around for where's the hook, and he comes and what's going on? I'm like,
waiting for the corporate logo to sell him something.
100%. And he's like, so what's going on? I'm like, I'm doing a projection map. And he's like, okay, why? And I'm like, because it's cool. And then he was, okay, so who are you and who's paying for this? And I'm like, it's part of the Victoria Park BIA's engagement and marketing budget. And we just wanted to do a neat gesture in the park during cold winter night and to make people smile and have a great time. And he stopped and looked at me, and I was in the tool gear, and he was like, thank you. Thank you. That's awesome.
It is important to mention there's nothing wrong with the local market at the event.
Right.
But I think what Nightlight does better is it's spread out over blocks and blocks and includes the permanent local businesses in the plan.
Yeah, so you can freely find the businesses because
Absolutely.
You're walking
if you
around.
Want to go to the market, you can go to the market. It's there.
Go get a beer. Go get a coffee.
All the supports are there. It's just not built around that.
Yeah.
So the gestures are standalone, but then after that, it's like, hey, where could we go get a beer or drink or something around here? And it's like,
I guess stick around.
Because to your point, downtown was not very busy during the weekends in certain parts. Mm-hmm. And I know it's changing, and we are doing our best. We're becoming a younger city. But the other thing that I thought was interesting is the first year of Glow, 2017, 16, something like that. 16? Yeah. So we planned this major event, and all of the downtown businesses closed. No coffee shops, nothing. No. So the one vendor who rolled in his trailer to sell hot dogs, I'm sure you know who he is. I don't know if we can plug on here.
Is he a millionaire now?
Yeah, he was selling, hundreds of hot chocolates. He was running out to convenience stores to go get more hot chocolate and sell. So that to me was wild. So if we as a culture, as a downtown community can start to get used to this, and not just downtown, because the city of Calgary had a really great experiment during COVID where they took this event to the burbs, and we live in the burbs. That's okay. It doesn't always have to be about coming downtown. I mean, come down to Vic Park BIA and come downtown. But at the same token, we can do these in smaller versions as outreach to other communities. The community associations and BIAs in smaller communities want this too.
Yeah, well, and Calgary's downtown. Like I used to work headquarters by Bankers Hall, and often, like, at 5:00, everybody's going back to the burb, and it can kind of be desolate in a way. When I first met David and I was learning about Nightlight, I remembered that I actually did a research paper when I was doing my master's in communication and technology, and a research paper was focused on Central Memorial Park, and it was about communicative design. And that park is so cool because, like, if you really look at the structure of it and how it's laid out, you walk through and you see the veteran message, and it's kind of like a path of gardens, and just the way that park is designed is a great example about interactive communicative design of a social space to kind of make you stay and congregate. And it's such a beautiful park. So
well, I think this is what the downtown strategy team is really working on, is how do we create a more vibrant downtown as we start to not gentrify, because I don't know how much property we're turning over, but to densify and to start to think like a larger city. they do have a strategy. So if you have recommendations for how to make your city more vibrant, please
densify and diversify.
Get in it and just send an email and get in touch with the downtown strategy. I think they're kind of leading the charge along with you and the other BIAs.
Yeah, in the greater downtown. I mean, part of the challenge for Calgary is that we were built around a monoculture. So you've got Stephen Avenue, that canyon, if you will, and then the support for that over many years was one industry, basically. So when you have
you got oil, and then you got the rail line,
public realm, or two. I should be fair. I won't go into what I call those guys, but you've got those two industries, and so you've basically again created this essentially a monoculture supporting the almost 30% of the tax revenue for Calgary in a very tiny geographic area. That's really not great. So what we need to do is what I like to reframe as just sort of expand and reframe what a downtown is for a city. And then also to just get ruthless about what's the value proposition. Like, why would I want to stay here after 5 o'clock? Mm-hmm. Why would I want to come back here to come and see Nightlight? And that's part of the magic. And, with Nightlight, and we've seen it with other festivals, people are like, yeah, I heard about this thing. Yeah, do I really want to go back down there? Because and then they come back and they go, wow, I didn't realize it could be or look like this. This is so, and again, it's increasing that value proposition, but it's also about, and one of my favorite phrases to use is, I went there and I saw this, and I went there and I did that. And if you can get people saying those two things, that's social capital that you can't buy.
Yeah, and I think it really is a diversity thing, right? Because like Calgary, it's kind of a grid system, right? So we got northwest, northeast, southwest, southeast, right? And
quadrant system.
Sorry, quadrants. And so yeah, if you've got a family, often you're leaving downtown core and you're going to suburbia, and beautiful suburbs in all of Calgary, but the potential of you walking down the street and kind of like meeting a neighbor, it doesn't happen that much in the burbs, right? So that's what's fun about density, is coming downtown and you find people and it's like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that this culture kind of exists. So it's kind of like the hub of downtown.
But I think even residents who are passing through Tunnel Dome, any of the installations that Nightlight were like, hey, what is this? So I get it. You didn't have a $250,000 budget to market, which was awesome. We just did a thing that was great downtown, and even the residents were like, this is awesome, thanks, like I didn't know this was here. I love it. How do we get more of it? And
residents, they love gestures, because again, it's that I live where they did this. I live next to that park where they put in this tunnel and this dome.
It puts their community on the map and a pride.
Absolutely. Right? And so when we can start doing more of those gestures for people that create that anchor. And if you go to New York and it's like, oh, I live near where they play the chess games, instantly where that is.
Yeah.
Right. That's Union Square. It. And so for us, we just the way people associate with the spaces and the activities, because we've become so good at segregating those in Calgary.
Well, and why I'm really aligned with these Blinky light guys is because when we're talking about Calgary, I used to do a Blinky light thing as well on the Canadian Pacific Holiday Train. So that was a Blinky light. Well, actually, it still is going on. It just celebrated 25 years this last year. 2 trains, 14 cars long, each decked out in LED lights. 170 concerts produced over 3 weeks across North America. So, did that train tour. I was the creative director of it for 7 years. And it was another one of those free shows where, you pull in, we would do up to 8 shows a day on the train, pull in, drop this stage, Christmas concert. I'll come out and present a check to the mayor. Here's $10,000. But we would thank everybody for just, coming out for the free show, donate to your food bank. And it was so many amazing, remarkable memories, because the people that would come out to that free show, some of them were, you would really see the poverty in the crowd, especially during the Christmas season. Like, so you would see people that were coming there to give their kid that Christmas gift, in a way, in that showcase. And actually, you could see that some of them needed to be supported by that food bank. But then you also had people that, we're supporting them as well. So again, that message of like free and wow, and just the power of Blinky Light.
Well, if we combine this with what you're talking about in what might be considered EDM culture or live music and electronic music culture, we had Snowblower.
Right. Yes, we had.
Shout out PK Sound. Worked there for a lot of years. I'm sure you've attended, and it was this free event in the beginning of January. Very cold, but it was at Olympic Plaza,
right in front of City Hall.
Amazing.
I think it was 2010 and 2011.
The last year, it became too much for the city. And so, no offense, I don't know the details. I will just share the general scope of this is it was harder to control the population. People were worried about it getting too big and too out of control, but it shows you demand. It showed that the city was ready for a live, free electronic music experience in the winter.
Yes, and people mourn Snowblower a lot, and I know there are ambitions to bring it back. And
there are.
Oh, there are some people talking.
Kaylee from Bird, we're talking about it right now.
Yes, okay. There are some people talking. Okay, and do you know who's talking? Do you know who's buzzing?
I do.
Have you seen Kid Koala's The Storyville Mosquito?
Yes. Yeah, that was amazing. Talk about wild creativity in someone through generations. Like that.
Yes. So Kid Koala was one of the last artists to perform at Snowblower. That was a really, really cold year. So Kid Koala, he just came, and he's doing this whole tour. He's starting, I think he goes down to New York pretty soon, but it's Kid Koala, an amazing DJ, and I know who's kind of behind some of the ghostwriting. Shout out to Paul Brooks. So it's this puppetry show, and it tells the story of this little mosquito that he doesn't sing at all, and he goes to a big city with a ticket to a show, and he tries to go to the show, but there's this scary spider that comes and he chases him away from being able to go to the show. So then he wants to learn about music, so he goes to a music museum, but he finds the music museum totally empty. There's only one instrument, like one clarinet that he wants, but then as he tries to grab the clarinet, there's this avocado that comes out, and he's got like the gaping pit, and he's got a cleft chin, and he points to the sign and says, no music allowed. So that's a statement to our National Museum Center, I believe. Even Patty Pond of Calgary Arts Development Association, she recently said that Calgary, we have the National Music Museum or Center, but she said, but we're not known for music. So that was a pretty bold statement, and so I feel some things are being stung.
If you think about it, we had SEMP for a long time. And that was free, and that was awesome. And then only when we attempted to monetize that festival, no slight on any of the promoters that were involved, but that was the downfall. That ended it. And it was publicly funded, and also funded by other grants. So we'll call it public money. And it was in demand. Everyone loved it. And it was an opportunity to create an accessible music environment. So Nightlight even having its own stage for free music. This year we got trapped by weather, but was a free stage.
There will be a free stage. There will be
for this year as well. So
I'll tell you what's coming up too.
Yeah, if you're involved in music, make sure you apply. But I think talking about live music, free live music is awesome.
Yeah. So there's a collective called Oscillate. That I'm partnering with as a media partner of WIKKID, and also CJSW. So there used to be a conference called AEMCon, AEM, Alberta Electronic Music
Big ups, Isis, Andrew, the whole team.
Yeah, Isis.
Thank you for putting those on a few years.
Yeah. It was hosted at the National Museum, and when. Because I traveled a lot for the past couple of years, and I kind of found that I know so many people across the electronic dance music industry, writing for EDM.com, doing Junos and stuff, and just coming back to Calgary, it's like, we've kind of lost that glue of where people can connect. So I stumbled upon the Oscillate Collective. So they have funding to actually bring back a conference in November for 2 days, 3 nights. And what's going on this weekend, actually February the 24th at the Freemasons Hall, right down here on 12th, is we're doing a beta con. So it's an afternoon of workshops from 3 to 6, and then there's going to be a break, and then music from 7 until I don't know, maybe even 2.
Yeah.
And we're calling it a beta con. So we're asking people to come and just kind of cast their votes about what they think a future of a convention could be. Because for anybody that's traveled to an international convention, there are so many things that can kind of pile in terms of people showcasing across the industry. Like the 2 international electronic dance music conferences are, one's Amsterdam Dance Event, and the other is Miami Music Week. So, who knows? Maybe Calgary could do our own con. So that's what we're conning about.
Well, to pop up the tires on that event, from what I've seen talking with Jay and other people involved, it's not just about music or the audio experience that is wrapped up in an EDM experience, if you will, electronic music experience. It's the visuals as well. It's visual art. So I think with the invention of AR, VR, also place-based multimedia, we're going to see those experiences drastically change, and to something that, again, experience-based will be so prolific for every individual and inspire more often. You won't just be in a crowd.
What about AI? Like what's that influence going to be on marketing?
I mean, if you think
that's why we need to talk.
That is a rabbit hole. But I will tell you why I love what Oscillate's doing is I feel that was missing from AIMCon in the early years, and they did a great job in the last year at NMC trying to bring in more people from the multimedia side of electronic music. But in the Dome, one of our VJs, so Throw Shape Visuals, shout out Dan, brought some AI content into the Dome during Nightlight, and it was generated, I'm not sure if it was Midjourney or another bot, but the watching it play out in the Dome was kind of wild, knowing that no human created that very specific content, but it was pulled from human generated content, right? It pulls from a database and creates from inspiration, if you will. So I'm kind of curious to see how we move forward in creating that content. I don't want to talk about licensing and the IP involved, but for sure, if you think someone now who doesn't have the skill set to code in our world can code in, let's say, Python, a language, go to a chatbot and then get the chatbot to help them figure out the remainder of the code to do what they're asking it to do. It is another tool in the toolbox to create something you would not normally be able to create without years of experience or a team around you. It is magic. So I know if I go to it and I'm writing something in Sketch for an Arduino, I will often go to a chatbot and look for the prompt that I can use to do the thing I'm trying to do. So it is another tool for humans to create something from their imagination. It's amazing. So that is all I'll say. David, I don't know if you have more.
I'm just looking for a place to plug in a projector. That's all.
Yeah. Okay, well, it's easy, and I love that this event, coming up on February the 24th, this weekend, is at the Freemasons Hall. I actually know quite a bit about the Masons. I explored the Shriner culture 2 years ago, right? and they're so cool because
So what time and how do people go?
So February the 24th at the Freemasons Hall, 330 12th Avenue Southwest. Yes, this Saturday, 3 to 6, there's going to be workshops. And what's cool about the Oscillate Collective, myself and Isis Graham and John Delirious and a bunch of the Oscillate Collective, we were actually featured in this 6-part series documentary produced by Premonition. It's called The Art of Pressing Play. And it really kind of tells the history of electronic dance music in Calgary specifically. But it kind of really shows that the Oscillate Collective, they are our teachers, where there's going to be workshops about what it means to press play. Like, what is that DJ doing? And just, coming and
so if
people
were looking for like social media handle or website or
So at Oscillate Collective.
There we go.
At Oscillate Collective.
Oscillate
Thank you.
Delay.
At wicked.witch.entertainment.
Awesome.
I'm on CJSW. My podcast is coming out again today. I'm running a monthly on CJSW called Keeping It Wicked. Also wicked.witch.entertainment. Thank you. And yes, come down to the Freemasons Hall.
Well, the musical lineup looks awesome.
Yeah. And like there are some really great venues. One of my favorite venues in Calgary is actually the Rated Ultra Lounge. It's just by the river, and they are bringing back like residencies and collectives. So the culture of DJs and kind of bringing it back. It's really coming out. So my project for the year is to explore 25 years of electronic dance music in Calgary, and maybe even like Western Canada. So I'm starting to kind of talk to like the OGs, the prickly porcupines, and it's kind of going to be my project throughout the entire year to kind of like map out that story. But one of my most interesting years I had working for CP was during Canada 150, because everybody had to celebrate 150 years of Confederation. And what do you do when you work for Canadian Pacific Railway, like the oldest company in Canada almost? So that's where I really learned a lot of like history of like what founded this city, what was then, what was now. And I ran this really cool storytelling campaign being like share your railroad legacy. So I'll probably be opening that up and kind of doing that for like share your raver legacy, and just having people kind of submit their kind of features and kind of like start building that archive, because I'm really finding that when I piece together, books about like, this is how the railway was formed, like it was kind of easier to do for the railway because we had a lot of those written archives. But I find now like archives can get deleted, like digitally. So that's going to be my campaign for the year, is putting things on the map. And, we were maybe once ravers that, loved speakers and discovered PK sound and went out to the bush and, experimented. But, now
this is where I started.
We're legit, right?
I started with music and DJing and producing.
Yeah.
And then through that, all the people and friends that I've encountered and been inspired by have brought all of us to here. David, too, has history in electronic music.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Goa is your favorite genre, right?
Yes. Yeah. Long story. That's for another show.
I know. Yes. This is not the music show.
No, that's for another show. But I mean, I think at the end of the day, it is inspiration and expression and big art in all its forms. And all of them have influenced my trajectory and clearly all of ours. And I'm looking forward to how we can parlay this into a serious venture for Calgary moving forward.
I think so. And like when we talk about the creative industry, those who can't make it to the event on Saturday, I'm also going to be just opening up a survey form that anybody online can kind of go through and just, cast what their spirit of the convention is, and the different layers, like even, are you fashion, are you food, are you hospitality, like what would be their dream of, like a week-long convention bar. Pardon?
Host bar.
Host bar?
Yeah, a host bar. Yeah.
Oh, all right. Yeah, so I should have you look at that form, okay, and like both of you, and tell me like what check boxes I should be putting in, because it's like, tell me what creative industry is to you, right, and like what people could bring. Yeah,
that sounds great.
Yeah,
love to come and talk about that too on another show. Sure.
Right. So I feel like it's Q1 of 2024, right, and it's time to put things on record and kind of like crowdsource, right. And strategic plan, and yes, always recruiting. Okay, so I think maybe we can wrap it up with that. Always recruiting. Yes, I'm Leah McClure, Wicked Witch Entertainment. You can find me on CJSW. We'll put all the plugs in here. David, how do people get in touch with the BIA, Vic Park?
Hashtag Vic Park YYC everywhere.
Okay. And what about the downtown strategy? How do people...
Downtown strategy? They have their own thing. City of Calgary Downtown Strategy Team.
Okay. All right. And then over to Paul.
Yeah, you can reach anyone at Big Art with our social handles for all platforms. It's at Big Art Works, hashtag Big Art, and also hashtag Maker's Gonna Make. And I think that's exactly the the mission that we're trying to prosper is that just don't stop making. Just keep making, no matter what roadblocks are in your way. Just keep making.
Exactly, and just ask. Just ask.
Or just make.
Or just make.
Just make it.
Ask for forgiveness.
Sure. Yeah. But thank you for having us on
Thank
and
you.
to talk about the Blinky things.
Thank you.
Excited for what Calgary has in store for 2024.
Yeah. I love the city. I'm born and bred.
It's 2024 already.
2024.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm already
2024. What's going to be in store? Stay tuned. Thank you.